was going to ask Isha actually about the A-League women. Who are the players? Because obviously there's players starting to come over from the A-League now. So who should we be looking out for in the A-League as players who might make the jump to the WSL, or names to know?
Okay. There's a few. I would say recently, I don't know how much but we just had 4 Matildas games down under, and the last 2 games, essentially what happened was most of the players that play in Europe sort of went back, and we had a lot of A-League women's youngsters come in. So I would say most of the players that played there really, really players to watch, because we won both of those games 3-0 and then 6-0. And the second game, it was 6-0, all 3 A-League goal scorers, all 6 different goal scorers, sorry. And I would say Tash Pryor, who plays for the Newcastle Jets, she's a defender. She just made her debut against the first game that we played against Chinese Taipei, scored in that one, and then scored in the second one. And her story is nothing short of incredible. She she retired from football at the age of 18 or 21, like very young, after a successive concussion after concussion. Like, she would have really terrible concussions. She was, one of us, a fan watching the World Cup last year, really fell in love with it, was like, hey, I don't want to miss out on this. Started playing professionally with the A-League again, got called up to the Matildas, and was really one of those players that was really able to hold her own against other players. So I think I'd be very surprised if she wasn't signed to another team soon overseas. A very strong player. Yeah, that's the sad thing about loving the A-League. We lose a lot of our talent to overseas leagues all the time. But Leah Davidson as well. I would say for some reason the Melbourne City to overseas pipeline is very strong. Melbourne City women, Caitlin Torby in the last year, who's again become Matilda, now plays for San Diego Wave. Mackenzie Hawkesby was actually signed to Brighton last year and didn't get any playtime, and so returned to Sydney FC. So I don't think she would leave anytime soon. And I actually interviewed her a couple of weeks ago, and she, obviously, I'm sure if a great opportunity came up, she would take it, but was talking about how much she thrives at Sydney. And I think that, once she's already had that situation where she's made that move overseas, didn't work out for her. So I don't know if how soon after she would be ready to sort of take that plunge again. But then obviously, at Brighton, again, we do have Daria now, again, an Aussie manager who's very familiar with Hawkesby. So I don't know if that changes things. But yeah, there's, I'm trying to think as well.
Zach mentions Alex Chidiac, and that's
Alex
the name
Chidiac,
that I recognise from the World Cup. There was a lot of excitement around her, kind of on the fringes of the Matilda squad, as one of the next wave.
Yeah, I would say Alex Chidiac's a good player as well. I think she might be benefiting a little bit from World Cup tax in terms of how good she actually is. But I think, again, a really strong player who could definitely, again, another player who made the move overseas, first signed for Racing de Louvre in the NWSL, didn't really, got sent on loan to Tigre in the Mexican League, and then didn't really get much playing time, which cost her national team spot. So she made the move back to the A-League. I would say, I think, in terms of midfielders, for me personally, I think Hawkesby probably fills in a few players, I think, fill in a bit more of sort of the gap we need a bit more. But Chidiac, I think, is a really good long-term replacement for Katrina Gorey, potentially, just in terms of the amount of energy that she brings on the pitch, and her ability to sort of run up and down and make those tackles. But yeah, again, I think a good player for sure. I'm trying to think.
Where's the next Sam Kerr coming from?
That's what the entire country wants to know. And I think we really struggled with that, which is really sad, because we really need, obviously, we love Sam, and Sam said she wants to play for a few more years, so, which is amazing. But Holly McNamara, who, again, another Melbourne City player, she has probably one of the worst lucks in the entirety of history. again, was on track. One of the young players that was on track to become a regular part of the Matilda squad, tore her ACL for the second time in her career. Last year, she got her call up again to the Matilda squad. She was on fire. I think she had like 7 goals in 6 games or something like that. Isn't that supposed to be Mary Fowler? Yeah, Mary Fowler, I think for me, operates a lot better as a number 10 than as a 9. I think she's a really good visionary player, like very good with playing the ball. Again, also a player who's good at scoring goals, but I think she works out there and she's really thrived in kind of that wing position for Manchester City this season. So I don't know if you necessarily move her back into the 9, but if need comes. But Holly McNamara, then at the end, she got the call up to the Matilda squad. Next day, scored the game-winning goal as a brace. A minute after scoring the game-winning goal, got stretched off and tore her ACL at that time. So she's currently rehabbing from that. But she's one of those players who I think each time she's come back from her ACL, she's been very strong. Yeah, Sian Fryer is, I would say, a player who is probably definitely going to go overseas soon. Again, a very creative player, really good. Plays for Brisbane Roar, who are essentially top of the table. They lost this week, but they were without all their Matildas. So I feel like that's a bit unfair. But a really, really good creative player who is, really good at, like, I think, getting into spaces, winning 1v1s. And I'd be really surprised if she didn't move overseas soon. Fun fact, she and her twin now both play for the same club.
Oh, that'd be good. That's all right. Are they identical twins as well? Like, so they can blame it on me. see if they don't want to see if a twin sister isn't as good or something, just send her instead and keep her.
I'm pretty sure they're not identical. Oh, but that would be something.
That's a shame.
There is the worry in the A-League as well, because Perth Glory apparently owe a lot of money. See, I've been looking up and researching. You see, while we've been keeping an eye on things, because I've been trying to find that player, and it was one of those things where I couldn't find it. But I've seen a whole bunch of other things. But I just find it interesting that they're so, because it's the other side of the world from here. We don't really hear about Australia much, except at a World Cup, and it's like, and then you have Sam Kerr coming over here and absolutely destroying scoring records left, right, and centre, and then you think, right, okay, can Australia win a World Cup? Do you think in this generation, or do you think the time has kind of got? Do you think that was their best chance, the home World Cup, and they might be like trying again for a few years?
No, I think we can. Like, I definitely think that I'm not, again, on Twitter, but I know that a lot of us on Twitter are very passionate about it. And I do think that we did, I would say, punch above our weight with our 4th place World Cup finish in terms of, we beat France on penalties, a very strong team. I still maintain that we could have beat England in the semi-final. Like, we did beat them, just the year before, or earlier that year as well. Like, it's just, I do think that we could have done that. But obviously, we, as a team, again, we don't have, our biggest issue as a team is we don't have squad depth. And so if any of our starting players are out injured, it really impacts us. And I think that that's something that hopefully with the next year, as we're working towards it, kind of gets fixed. But that's one thing that I noticed as well, is like with the England, like, with the Lioness squad announcement come out, like, there's a lot of people criticize the fact that Wiegman doesn't rotate a lot. But I would say at least she has more room to, in terms of her options and who can fit into some of those positions, whereas we don't have that same level of squad depth. And that also comes to the fact that, like, and the interim coach kind of talked about this, was that we didn't rotate a lot. And it means that, some positions, they've been kind of very secure for those players for a while. And, there's both pros and cons to that. Like, Ellie Carpenter is never losing her position. That is hers. Like, any Australian right back, very sorry. But like, that's hers. Like she's
Very sorry, just don't.
Don't bother.
Same problem with Lucy Bronze.
Yeah.
yeah. But I think we definitely like centre backs are a position where we crucially need depth. We really do not have. We basically have had no depth, and that's why I think we saw Tash Pryor, who I was mentioning earlier, really pop off this time, because we have, like, in the World Cup, it was just after the France game that Alana Kennedy got injured, and the only person that we had to then start in place of her for the England game was Claire Polkinghorne, who has just retired. Again, a lovely player, but is 38 years old. We literally, that was the next best player option that we had in that position, and I think that just shows how poor our squad depth is, that we had to rely on a 38-year-old veteran to come in.
There's nothing wrong with 38-year-old people. I'm 38. Nothing wrong with it.
I know I don't look it. I'm 2 years older than that.
Yeah, same.
You've got a bunch of ancient people here. Like,
well, are you playing professional football at the World Cup semi-final?
I would know.
This is where I think the class. I still could, I still live it. The dream isn't dead,
Yeah, no, I definitely think we could win the Asian Cup. Like, we're in a good position. I would say the biggest threat that we have is Japan. Strong team. Again, like a few other really good teams, China, South Korea, but like Japan, I think really is the biggest one. And we're playing them in the She Believes Cup in February. So that will be a good test of how much we really need to work. Tom Sermani, who's currently our interim coach, I think he's good. Like, he's basically really well known in Australia for basically establishing youth pathways, which is kind of what we need and where we're at. Because unlike the European countries, we don't have a tournament next year, so we're kind of vibing essentially until 2026, which is when we have the Asian Cup on home soil. And so I think like it's kind of nice to have him in at this point where he's really able to try and get more youth players into the system. Yeah, North Korea. Oh my God. I don't know if any of you have seen, but North Korea have just been winning everything, like across all the youth groups. Like, how Spain have been doing that to England across all the youth groups. North Korea have been doing that across all the like Asian and world youth groups. And it's terrifying, just the amount of depth that they have and the fact that they're so dominant across so many levels. I would say North Korea and Japan would probably be our biggest threats as well. But Tom's really good with getting youth players into the system, and that's what we critically need at the moment. I don't think, well, he's already said he's not going to stay on as head coach, but I do think we need a different person as the ongoing head coach, someone with fresh perspective and, someone with new things. But I think he's really good to have in the interim. I don't know, and people can tell me their thoughts, but we're both like, it's been 4 months since we've lost Tony, like, as our head coach, and we have not had a new coach yet as a national team. And that's both, some people are quite mad about it because the Socceroos, who are our men's team, when they lost their head coach, they had a new one appointed within 2 weeks, I think. And whereas, it's been 4 months and we haven't had one appointed. But on the other hand, our next major tournament isn't until a year away. So whereas they were in the thick of World Cup qualifiers. So it makes sense that, the urgency was really there for them, whereas we didn't have that same level of urgency. But I don't know. I honestly think Football Australia is potentially just hoping that England get tired of Serena Wiegman or something, and we're just able to get
they're just waiting for Mark Skinner to get sacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Phil Neville is available according to Graham. So
Phil Neville is available. Well, it's not, but he's been on the phone. As soon as that Villa job came off, Phil Neville gave me a call. Said, mention it. Give me a mention tonight, he said. So thanks, Graham.
We've decided Danny is Phil Neville's agent because whenever we talk about managers being fired, it has to mention Phil Neville.
It has to be a match with a club that would be hilarious to have Phil Neville as manager, though. And I don't think Australia would be that funny.
What about this one? Pep might be available.
Pep might be too.
We'll take Pep any day. Come. I think like it's both. I don't know if we really need like a really good coach, and obviously I think getting you know, the Emma Hayes or Serena Wigman will be really difficult.
Mm.
But I think they're just hoping that, like, maybe, you know, there's series of games go really badly, and then we're able to get them. No,
It's
but
probably a lot easier to
It's-
sell, you know, to Serena Wiegmann. You can either have an English winter and, you know, a rainy night in Sheffield, or you can have like Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane or, you know,
I think
There's,
the
surely-
weather we've had this weekend, she'll probably be like, yeah, pack me bags now.
yeah, we're away.
surely she needs a new challenge as well. You know, England, they've already won the Euros. You know, been there, done that. Try the Asian Cup, like, you know, new competition.